I got this episode idea from my friend Dylan. I posted on my story essentially, and I just like wanted to do a viewer's choice situation. So I was just like, what do you guys want to see from me on the podcast? I got a lot of different answers, but my friend Dylan, he was basically just like, you should do loneliness in your 20s. And I'm like, I can do that. Let's just jump right into it. So when I think of being lonely in your 20s, I think I feel like I'm a teenager still. People of like very different ages, I've seen them all say very different things. Like, you will feel 17 kind of your entire life. I haven't stopped feeling 17. I feel like after 17, my life kind of just like plateaued into this feeling of just like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm here. So when I think about being lonely in your 20s, especially living in a big city as I do, I live in New York, it's such a lonely, isolating feeling being in your 20s in such a populated city, because there are so many people that it just feels like you're bombarded with like too many options of who to be or something like that. Like, the idea that I have of being like in your 20s in New York City is like, going out, getting drinks, ordering food, everything's super expensive, but you're making it work. And a lot of the people that are in the city have their own dreams and sort of like creative endeavors that they want to get done. But it is kind of just like this like thing where you are around so many people that it doesn't make any sense for like people to feel obligated to talk to one another. Like, on the train, especially just like with the culture of what it is to be in New York, with the train, for example, one of my favorite things about the city is the fact that you can be just like having a mental breakdown or like crying on the train and nobody will really care or say anything. I would actually love if people did ask me why I was crying, but part of me feels good knowing that I can just cry in public whenever I want and nobody's gonna really care. So that's my number one thing. Loneliness in your 20s, it just feels like such an isolating experience when you're just like surrounded by a whole bunch of other people who are focused on their own thing. Beyond this, just like the idea of community is so absent from, I want to say like the city, but I think it goes bigger than just like where you live. I think it goes into like a more broad scale of people our age. A lot of people our age just like don't talk to one another. Like, it's really hard to like actually make conversation with people my age, because I always feel like they're just looking at me and don't really know how to converse with me, and I feel like I'm just like saying too much or doing too much, and it's just like this big little mess. I think like a lot of people my age have a lot of social anxiety. What it comes from, many different sources, but I think another thing with it is the use of technology that we have. When you're in your 20s and you're just laying there on your bed, feeling the feeling of missing out, just, it's Friday night, Saturday night, all of the people that you know are like out on Instagram, and you kind of don't ever feel like you have either the people to go out with or the plans to do so. And I grew up in New York. I've been here my entire life, but it's never truly felt like it's been my kind of vibe or my kind of city, because of just like the sheer amount that's going on and the sheer amount of people who are just focused on themselves. Okay, hi, editing Justin here. I just wanted to add really quickly this TikTok that I found today while I'm editing this episode. This creator points it out specifically. I'll leave their link and stuff in the description and on screen.
And I think what happens is that social media is filling in so many gaps of the opportunity structure in our society, particularly for young people.
That being said, when you are on technology using social media and you're looking at all of these people living their different lives, I like had this conversation with my friend Michaela the other day. We were just like looking at people's like social media profiles from like high school, and we were just like, where do these people find the money to go on these trips, and where do they find their partners, and then who, like, what are they doing outside of school? Like, are they even like doing their homework? Because a lot of the things that you see on the internet are just highlighted and curated, not for anybody's specific betterment, but more so just as like a showcase to who a person is, or like the aesthetic that they're pulling off in their life. Right. Me being 21, I've only been in two relationships so far that were like serious or long term. The first one about like 8 months, the second one about like 6 months. And I've met people my age, older, who have either never had sex or never had a relationship. And a lot of people say it like it's a bad thing. Obviously, like coming from my perspective, I can't speak for people who are in these like positions. But I think there's such a like big, it feels like there's this big cloud looming over everybody's shoulder in my generation that's just like, if you're not gonna find like your person or your people, you're just gonna like die alone. I don't think anybody's gonna like die alone like ever, because that's just not, it's not conducive, it's not helpful to think that. I tell my friends all the time that, we will find our people. And truthfully, how deep in life do you feel like you are supposed to be at the age of like 21? Nobody knows what's going on, like, period. But it's also the added fact that, like, we just got here. I don't know what's happening half the time. And it's not a bad thing, and it's not a good thing either, because it just leaves you with all of these mixed emotions. But I find comfort in the fact that I have the rest of my life to look forward to. A lot of people are stuck in this idea, like, given depression and other mental health issues that other people have. I personally suffered from like depression, anxiety, PTSD, and like panic disorder, symptoms of OCD, things like that. And a lot of it stems back to anxiety, and that has both helped and hurt my relationships. Like, out of the anxiety that I have for my relationships, because I value them so highly, I am always a person who is going to like see what I can do better. When it comes to like my more intimate relationships or like my romantic relationships, my overthinking sometimes helps me out, and being as sensitive as I am is kind of a good thing, because that's the one place where you're like pretty much supposed to be a sensitive individual. Now, a lot of people get tripped up here as well, because they're just like, I don't want people to see my real feelings, because their feelings have been either invalidated in the past, or, they've never been made to feel like their opinions and their values have actual, like, thought put behind them, if that makes any sense. Like, a lot of people move around the world, even just New York City, and they are on go, go, go all of the time, and they never get a chance to actually look at what they value in life. And I think that is pretty much a big part of what loneliness comes from, especially like in your 20s. There are so many people that are my age, who are like around my age, who just feel completely like cut off from society and like lonely, especially just people who have like fell down different pipelines of stuff to get involved with. When you're searching for a community for so long, and the only ones that take you in are the ones that we see with far right individuals, you see that it's not just a person by person basis. It's a generational thing. So I think technology, people's mental health, they all play an impact on what it means to actually like be a lonely individual, and especially at such a like important time of building the rest of your life. A lot of people don't understand how much it means to have people like around you, or have people believe in you, or have people sit here and say that they want to be around you. And that's where a lot of it comes down to. When we think about actual solutions to the epidemic of loneliness that we found ourselves in as a generation, we have to look at what we value. Now, values play a big part in my life. I'm sure it plays a big part in a lot of people's lives. And something I learned at college, because, education, my professor is doing a study with another Harvard professor, and they're basically looking at this high-risk group of people, pretty much just kids going to high-achieving schools. And I referenced this in another episode, probably the one like right before this one, but there's this ongoing idea of like people in my generation, especially like the kids in high achieving schools, to feel this pressure of not ever being enough. Like, there's always going to be a finish line that's moving ahead of you that you can never catch up with. And I felt this feeling numerous times. I'm sure a lot of people have. And that is a really lonely feeling, because when you don't see other people that you are, communing with to be on your side or like behind you, you somewhat feel like an enemy. And I remember even growing up, what you can do in real life is, I think, looking at your values, looking at what you value in people, what you value in yourself, what you value in like the community that you build is pretty much key to the issues of loneliness in your 20s. Now, I'm going to say something and you guys cannot get mad at me. You have to go out by yourself. I know. I said the same thing when I figured it out. When I sat down with myself and said, okay, I'm going to start going out by myself, by the time I figured that out, I was really desperate. Back when I was having one of those moments where I felt like nobody liked me, or I had like nobody in my life to like actually share what I was going through with, I just started going out by myself. I mean, the next best thing you can do is go out by yourself. Now, it took me like a couple months of going out by myself to actually feel comfortable doing it. That's the actual thing. The most uncomfortable part is actually starting. So when I started going out by myself, I would like start at like a restaurant, or like, I'd go get a drink by myself, or I would just take a walk, or go to like the park and draw, or like read or something like that. And I found that doing things like that made me feel good about myself. I just felt really glad to be enjoying my own company for once. I think I got really used to people around me all the time, where by the time I ended up needing to go out by myself, I was pretty much at a loss. I was kind of just sitting here and I was just like, I'm really uncomfortable with everything that's going on right now, and I don't want to be seen in public without anybody else with me. And a lot of that stemmed from anxiety. A lot of it stems from, just not ever feeling like I had like a true sense of like friendship with me. But I figured out that I'm one of those people that I would prefer to have friends pretty much in different places, just to like have that different sense of perspective. I really value people who are not seeing the same world that I am, because I think having multiple understandings of what the world looks like and can look like, I think it's really good for your development. You'll never know who you'll run into, that's one. And then also, get off your phone. Put the phone down too. I'm coming for all of your things, actually. So for me, I gain a lot of comfort in social settings when I'm just on my phone and I'm not actually like looking to socially engage with people. But at that time, I was finding out that a lot of the people who were just talking to other people were not on their phones, right? Getting off your phone, having a real like moment with yourself and saying, I want to go into this social situation and actually feel good about myself and the people that I'm going to interact with, or hopefully interact with, that just sets up the rest of what your relationships can look like. Actually figuring out that you have control over who is in your life and who you're spending your time with is a lesson that I think a lot of people either haven't learned or are recently learning. A lot of people keep their friends out of convenience, or like they, know them through like school or work or things like that. And broadening your horizons on what your friends can look like outside of, the things that you are structured into is another really important part. I always love giving a random compliment. I have started so many conversations just by giving a compliment, or like asking a simple question like, what are you doing here as well? I mean, you can walk up to somebody else by themselves and just ask them if they came by themselves, and you could say you too. And that started a conversation for me. It started a conversation for me. So I truly, I truly can't be mad at just like walking up to a stranger and talking to them. I was really raised against that idea of just like being able to talk to a stranger, but my dad is actually one of those people who is constantly chatty, and so he'll talk to strangers all of the time. And I've been out with him sometimes, and he'll like make a friend just with us being out, or like, he'll compliment somebody or they'll compliment him, and that actually builds relationships with people. When you feel like people actually like you and you come off in a way that, is genuine, people can tell. And being your most genuine self is the key to being a true part of a community, right? Also, start being a regular at places. When you are going to somewhere, like, commonly, that's the best chance you'll have to actually meet people there. So honestly, just think of like all of these ideas that I just spit out, combine them together, and you've got yourself the idea of what to do if you are looking for a community or trying to make friends with people. I think it's more necessary now than it has been in a while, for the sheer fact that it's increasingly becoming a lonely world that we live in, when everybody's worried about their own thing and going after the things that they want to go after. It doesn't always involve other people. Like, other people aren't always in a part of somebody's plan in life. You don't ever plan to meet great people, it just happens to you. And there are ways to make it happen easier for you, given your circumstances. As I said, take this with a grain of salt, because I am me. I have one perspective on life itself, and whoever's watching this is probably a very different perspective. And, you know, I think it fades in and out for me personally. It doesn't stay lingering over me all the time. It comes and goes, and I have my moments where I want to be surrounded with people, and I want to have my moments where I don't want to be around people whatsoever. And I think if you just work with yourself and know what your boundaries are, it'll become increasingly easier for you to actually feel surrounded by the people you want to surround you. So I think the best part of going into a new year is trying to be a new person. I mean, everybody has their resolutions. If your resolution is to find community, this episode is for you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your year. I'll be back, like, before the year ends, of course, but, you know, I'll see you soon.